I'm really happy with the overall timing that I established in my timing chart, and I'm ready to take that information and apply it to the physical keyframes that are going to represent the drawing that I have for my bow and arrow. So let's get to work in creating that structure, testing that structure, and developing the drawings for each one of those keyframes. So here we go. Let's jump in real fast. Okay, so here's frame 1. Everything is looking pretty good here. If I look down on my timeline, I get the global understanding of the timing chart keyframes in this first row. This is the summary row down here in our timeline. And I think what I'm going to do is that I've unlocked all the other animation layers, by the way, and I've locked my timing chart animation layer down here at the bottom. As a quick review, this is what it looks like. Whoosh, boof, whoosh, boof. Okay, I love it. Stop my animation, and let's start looking at what we're going to produce here for this animation. I know that the extreme pose, the back pose, is going to be right on frame 18, and then we're going to be holding that drawing for, what is that, 6 frames? Yeah, for 6 frames. So let's go ahead and make that pose. I know that I want the bow to rotate back a little bit, which will give me a great opportunity to make an arc for the arrow as it goes out the front of the bow. That's going to be cool. We like arcs. That's great for animation. Gives us depth inside of the scene, reminds us of weight and gravity. So let's go ahead and start crafting what that looks like. Since the bow, the arrow, and the string are all going to be rotated back, I'm going to do this in a series of passes. I'm going to establish the keyframes for the rotation, and then I'll go in and establish the keyframes for the deformation of the bow itself. So I'm on frame 18 here, and let's do this. I'm going to select all of my first keyframes, and I'm just going to duplicate them. Shift D inside of my timeline to duplicate those keyframes. There we go. And before I go any further, I'm going to label them as a extreme keyframe type in my timeline. Hitting the R key will bring open the menu, and I'll just tag them real fast. That way, visually, I can see that they are extreme poses, that these are super important keyframes in comparison to others. Okay, so with that keyframe selected, I'm free to go in. I'm in edit mode, by the way. Stroke selection set. I'm going to grab all of these in here and fire off the rotation tool. Now, the rotation tool is going to allow me to set the rotation of the animation itself. So I'm doing this. I'm rotating back a little bit. So this is going to be the angle of attack for my arrow, which I'm thinking is going to be pretty cool. And now, once again, now we need to have 2 of these keyframes, 2 sets of keyframes. If we're going to hold a drawing for any period of time, we need to have 2 sets of keyframes. I'm going to grab these keyframes down here, which establish my extreme pose. Shift D will duplicate them, and I want to move them forward 6 frames to frame 26. Excuse me, not 6 frames, 8 frames to frame 26. When we have duplicate drawings on different keyframes, we're going to hold that drawing for 8 frames. So not a lot's going to change in here. In the animation world, that's called a moving hold. Whoosh, boof, whoosh, boof. Okay, let's get the arrow going here. Now for the arrow, I don't want the bow to move at all. I just want to make sure I'm getting keyframes for the arrow. So I'm going to have that animation layer selected. In addition, I'm going to go in and select all the strokes that represent the arrow, which is the shaft of the arrowhead, and the little feathery flight things on the back side of the arrow. And now with those objects selected, I'm free to start plotting and planning where I want that motion path to go. Using the grab tool at first, I'm going to grab it, hold down the X key to constrain it going this way, but I know that it's a little bit more than just a perfect straight line. I'm also going to grab it along the Y. I'm going to drop it down just a little bit, and I went a little too far with it, excuse me. I'm going to grab it again. I'm just going to drop it a little bit. We don't need to drop it to the floor, although you certainly could do that. A little bit in there is going to go a long way. And since we're here and we got all of that stuff selected, let's go ahead and rotate it a little bit. Yeah, and now we can start to see the movement path for our arrow. It's going to go from there. It's going to go from there to there, there to there, which is going to be pretty cool. Okay, whenever we create something, the first thing we want to do is to play it. Here's a great keyboard shortcut that will speed up your workflow inside of the Blender timeline. I want to play my animation, and you're more than welcome to go down into the bottom of the interface and hit the little play button, which will advance the playhead. That's cool. That's a great way of working. Here's the keyboard shortcut that I find really helpful. Shift space. The shift space bar is just going to play your timeline. Boof. Boof. Yep, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. These keyframes are really working. We're working in passes. I'm not trying to create all of the details of my keyframes at first. I'm trying to go in and just layer in information. The basic framework of my keyframes is working, so now I can advance one level of detail further and start looking at how we can deform the bow itself, the string, because that's going to be an important part. I need, on this drawing here, on frame 18, I need to deform my shape for the bow and the string. Well, I think that it probably makes the most sense to deform the bow first and have the string be deformed second. So as we were looking at before, let's just go into the bow layer. To ensure that I'm grabbing just the points for the bow, I'm going to lock everything else. And now I can just go in and grab some points. This is going to be a two-step process for me. I'm going to grab the top. We're going to do the top, and then we're going to do the bottom. And I think I'm just going to use the bend tool. Now it's using the location of the 3D cursor to define the location of the bend itself. So let's turn the cursor on, and let's move it. I think I want it to happen. I'm in the cursor move tool, by the way. Let's see, I want my area of deformation to bend from there, from the center of the handle. Let's see what we get now. Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's a good place to begin. Let's do the exact same thing, back to box selects for the bottom part of the bow. Make sure I get all these points in here. Real quick little selection, there we go. Fire off the bend tool one more time. The cursor is right where I want it to be. And now let's figure this out. Yeah, maybe something like that. Now I have a little bit of point editing in here that I probably should look to do, and that's okay. This is part of the process. I've just kind of lost some of the shape. That's okay. It's only going to be for just a brief second here. I think probably what I'll end up doing is grabbing all these points, and I'm going to run the scale tool and just scale them back a little bit, which is going to flatten them out. And then I'm going to grab them and move them on the x-axis. And I'm doing this just to kind of preserve some volume in here. I think the bend tool gave me this really weird bulge. That's okay. We can always go ahead and fix it. Yeah, pretty cool. I like it. Now I have some tweaks in here that I'm going to do just to kind of clean up some of the illustration on the bow itself, but the actual animation frames themselves and my sense of timing is really working. I'm digging this. Shift space to stop. And finally, the last little bit here that we got to do is the string. So we'll unlock that animation layer and let's get the string working the way we want it to work. So on this first keyframe, let's get the string working. Go back into my box selection mode. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this stroke, in stroke mode, not point mode, excuse me. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to move it back so that the top of the string is in the top of the bow here. And now let's grab, in curve editing mode, I'm going to grab this bottommost point. I think I grabbed both ends on accident. I sure did. Let me just get that top one back where it's supposed to go. And I'm already seeing that I need to make a small change to the material that's on here. I have accidentally assigned the material. Yeah. So that shape probably should be an arc as well. I've accidentally assigned a material to this stroke in here that's the same material as the bow itself. Let's fix that real fast before it goes any weirder. Let's create a new material. In addition, let's just call this string. Yeah, that's funny. And it'll be a stroke. We want to have it be fill. With that, I have my stroke still selected, and I'll assign that material to that string. That way we won't get that funny little fill shape that we saw a second ago. Since I'm still in curve editing mode and I got that selection, let's start to work on the string itself. And this is where these tangent handles really kind of come in and shine a little bit, because we can create just wonderful, simple shapes here. Yeah, maybe something like that. I'm thinking maybe the arms of my bow have extended a little bit thanks to the deformation of the bend tool. But that's okay, because I can always go back and fix that. Maybe the scale tool is a fast way of doing that for me. The other thing that I want to look at is the location of the arrow. We can't forget the arrow. Let's unlock that real fast. Let's leave curve editing mode and return to my stroke selection set. And I'm just going to very quickly grab all of this stuff. And I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to move it back. Now, where should this go? Yeah, I'm going to use the location of the arrowhead to kind of determine how far I want my exaggerated pose to be. And I was right earlier when I was mentioning that the arms of the bow have lost a little of its initial proportions. I need to shrink some of this down real fast. Let's just do it. Let's go back to my bow layer. I'm going to grab the points that I want to scale. Maybe all of this stuff. I don't know how this is going to work, but let's find out. I'm going to run the scale tool. I'm going to scale, and then we're going to grab and move it back a little bit, right about in there. Yeah, let's see. I think that's going to work. Again, if we go back to the string, stroke selection mode, let's grab and move this string now. It's locked, which is why I can't select it. Let's grab it, put it in place there. Yeah, I think this is getting a little bit closer to what I want my pose to be. I'm digging it. If we play the animation now, yeah, there we go. There we go. Now we're starting to establish the keyframes for an animation that includes anticipation and exaggeration.